Good morning and welcome back to Reading Wikis for You, where we read the wiki articles for you. And today we are going to be reading and paying a little bit of tribute to Scott Adams, an American cartoonist and commentator, philosopher, I don't know, all sorts of hands in all sorts of different pies. But he passed away yesterday, and so I thought it would be, nice to do a tribute to him. So, with that said, do keep in mind that since this is one of our current events articles, there is the possibility that the article is being updated. In fact, there is a warning on the article saying that it is being heavily edited at the moment. So, the information is current as of the time of recording, but there is going to be a link in the description so that you can go and check it out on your own, just in case there have been any changes. So, as always, while I'm reading, I'd appreciate it if you drop something in the comments. Let me know your thoughts about the Scott Adams or a topic that you'd like to hear about next, and we can get that into the schedule. And of course, subscribe, all the fun YouTube stuff. So, with that said, let's get started. All right. Oh, and one other small change. I am dumb and recently figured out that there's a dark mode for Wikipedia, so we're going to try using that instead. So, all right. Scott Raymond Adams was an American author and cartoonist. He was the creator of the Dilbert comic strip and nonfiction works of business, commentary, and satire. Adams worked in various corporate roles before he became a full-time cartoonist in 1995. By the mid-1990s, Dilbert, created in 1989, had gained national prominence in the United States and began to reach a worldwide audience, remaining popular throughout the following decades and spawning several books written by Adams. In the mid-2010s, Adams emerged as an independent commentator of events and politics. He wrote in a satirical way about the social and psychological landscape of white-collar workers in modern corporations. In addition, Adams wrote books in various other areas, including the pandeistic spiritual novella, God's Debris, and books on political and management topics, including Loserthink. In February 2023, Dilbert was dropped by numerous newspapers and its distributor, Andrews McMeel Syndication, after Adams made racist comments on his Real Coffee YouTube channel. He relaunched it as a webcomic on his local's website and continued to be active on social media until his death in 2026. Early life and education. Scott Raymond Adams was born on June 8, 1957 in Windham, New York, the son of Paul and Virginia (nee Vining) Adams. He described himself as about half German and had English, Irish, Welsh, Scottish, and Dutch ancestry. In 2016, Adams said he had a small amount of Native American ancestry, but later discovered via 23andMe genetic testing that he does not have any detectable Native American genetic markers. He was a fan of Peanuts comics while growing up and started drawing comics at age 6. He won a drawing competition at age 11. Adams graduated from Wyndham Ashland Jewett Central School in 1975 and was the valedictorian of his class of 39 students. He earned a Bachelor of Arts in Economics from Hartwick College in Oneonta, New York in 1979. He then moved to California and started work. In 1986, he earned a Master's of Business Administration from the University of California, Berkeley. Adams took Dale Carnegie training and called it life-changing. Career. Office worker. Adams worked closely with telecommunications engineers at Crocker National Bank in San Francisco between 1979 and 1986. Upon joining the organization, he first worked as a teller. After 4 months, in which he was twice held up at gunpoint, he entered a management training program. His positions included management trainee, computer programmer, budget analyst, commercial lender, product manager, and supervisor. He later shifted to work at Pacific Bell. To devote time to building a new career, he woke up every day at 4 a.m. and spent time on various endeavors. Cartooning proved to be the most successful of them. Adams created Dilbert during this period of personal exploration. The Dilbert name was suggested by his former boss, Mike Goodwin. Dogbert, originally named Dill Dog, was loosely based on his family's deceased pet beagle, Lucy. His submissions of Dilbert and other comic panels to various publications, including The New Yorker and Playboy, were not published, but an inspirational letter from a fan persuaded Adams to keep trying. He worked at Pacific Bell between 1986 and June 30th, 1995, and the personalities he encountered there inspired many of his Dilbert characters. In 1989, while still employed at Pacific Bell, Adams launched Dilbert with United Media. To maintain his income, he continued to draw his cartoons during the early morning hours. His first payment for Dilbert was a monthly royalty check of $368.62. Dilbert gradually became more popular. It was syndicated in 100 newspapers in 1991 and 400 by 1994. Adams attributed his success to his idea of including his email address in the panels, which resulted in feedback and suggestions from readers. Full-time cartoonist and author. Adams' success grew and he became a full-time cartoonist as Dilbert reached 800 newspapers. In 1996, his first business book, The Dilbert Principle, was released. It expounded on his concept of the Dilbert Principle. In 1997, Adams won the National Cartoonist Society's Reuben Award for Outstanding Cartoonist and Best Newspaper Comic Strip. Logitech CEO Pierluigi Zappacosta invited Adams to impersonate a management consultant, which he did wearing a wig and false mustache. He tricked Logitech managers into adopting a mission statement that Adams described as, quote, so impossibly complicated that it has no real content whatsoever. His writing in San Jose Mercury News West magazine regarding the incident earned him an Orwell Award. By 2000, the comic was in 2,000 newspapers in 57 countries and 19 languages. His comic strips were adapted as a Dilbert TV series, which debuted in January 1999 and ran for 2 seasons on UPN. Adams served as executive producer and showrunner along with Seinfeld writer Larry Charles. The show earned a Primetime Emmy Award in 1999. Adams later said that the show had been canceled because he was white and UPN had decided to shift towards African American viewers. In addition to his cartoon work, Adams wrote books in various other areas, including self-improvement and religion. His book God's Debris lays out a theory of pandeism in which God blows itself up to see what will happen, which becomes the cause of our universe. In The Religion War, Adams suggests that followers of a theistic religion such as Christianity and Islam are subconsciously aware that their beliefs are false, and that this awareness is reflected in their consistently acting as if these religions and their threats of damnation for sinners are untrue. In a 2017 interview, Adams said that his books on religion, not Dilbert, would be his ultimate legacy. His long-held agnostic outlook began to shift publicly as he confronted his terminal illness. On a February 22, 2023 live stream of his Real Coffee with Scott Adams program, Adams reacted to a poll that asked if respondents agreed that, quote, it's okay to be white, unquote, a phrase described by the Anti-Defamation League as associated with the white supremacist movement. The poll showed 26% of black respondents disagreed with the statement and 21% were not sure. Adams, upset that nearly half did not agree, described black people as a, quote, hate group, unquote, and said, quote, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people, just get the fuck away, unquote. In response to these and other related comments, Dilbert was dropped by numerous newspapers across the country, including the Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, and USA Today affiliated newspapers. Andrews McMeel's syndication, the distributor of Dilbert, announced on February 27, 2023, that it was severing all ties with Adams for his racist remarks. Portfolio, his book publisher, announced it was dropping his non-Dilbert book that was scheduled to be for release that September. Adams defended his remarks as hyperbole and as taken out of context in reportage. He disavowed racism and asserted that nobody would disagree with what he said were his main points. Do not discriminate and avoid things that look like they will put you at risk. On March 13th, Adams relaunched Dilbert as Dilbert Reborn on the subscription website Locals, minus the earlier Dilbert comics. On November 15th, 2025, he reported that he would no longer draw his strip because his right hand had focal dystonia and his left hand was semi-paralyzed, but would still be the writer of Dilbert. His art director would take over as the artist. Real Coffee with Scott Adams. In 2015, Adams wrote blog posts predicting that Donald Trump had a 98% chance of winning the presidency based on his persuasion skills, and he started writing about Trump's persuasion techniques. His pieces on this topic grew popular, so he started writing about it regularly. Adams soon developed this as a daily video presentation called Real Coffee with Scott Adams, distributed to Periscope, YouTube, and ScottAdamsSays.com. Real Coffee with Scott Adams featured guests such as Naval Ravikant, Ed Lattimore, Dave Rubin, Eric Finman, Greg Gutfeld, Matt Gates, Ben Askren, Carpe Donktum, Steve Sue, Michael Schellenberger, Carson Griffith, Shiva Ayadurai, James Norty, Clint Morgan, and Bjorn Lomberg. In 2018, Kanye West shared multiple clips on Twitter from a Coffee episode titled, quote, Scott Adams tells you how Kanye showed the way to the golden age with coffee, unquote. In 2020, President Trump retweeted an episode where Adams mocked Joe Biden. Adams offered paid subscriptions for exclusive content on locals. In 2020, Adams said, quote, for context, I expect my Dilbert income to largely disappear in the next year as newspapers close up forever. The coronavirus sped up that inevitable trend. Like many of you, I'm reinventing my life for a post-coronavirus world. The locals platform is a big part of that, unquote. Other. Adams started Scott Adams Foods Incorporated in 1999, which made the Dilberito and Protein Chef. First announced in the Dilbert Future and introduced in 1999, the Dilberito was a vegetarian microwave burrito that came in the flavors of Mexican, Indian, barbecue, and garlic and herb. It was sold through some health food stores. Adams' inspiration for the product was that, quote, diet is the number one cause of health-related problems in the world. I figured I could put a dent in that problem and make some money at the same time, unquote. He aimed to create a healthy food product that also had mass appeal, a concept he called, quote, the blue jeans of food, unquote. A flash game titled Dilberito was developed and published by Blam Video Game Development in 2000 for Scott Adams Foods. The product failed to catch on in the market, leading Adams several years and several $1 million later to sell off his intellectual property and exit the business. Adams himself noted, quote, the mineral fortification was hard to disguise, and because of the veggie and legume content, 3 bites of the Dilberito made you fart so hard your intestines formed a tail. The New York Times noted the burrito, quote, could have been designed only by a food technologist or by someone who eats lunch without much thought to taste, unquote. Adams sold off his intellectual property in Scott Adams Foods when the Dilberito failed in the marketplace in 2003. He was a restaurateur starting in 1997, but exited that business before 2017. Adams co-founded the service WhenHub, which has been described by Gizmodo as, quote, similar to Cameo, except instead of pre-recorded messages from movie stars and rappers, it offers live chats with a range of subject matter experts, unquote. In 2019, Adams briefly received negative media attention when, during the Gilroy Garlic Festival shooting, he posted a tweet suggesting that witnesses download the WhenHub app and, quote, set your price to take calls, unquote. He later apologized, saying the message was poorly worded. As of 2024, the WhenHub website is inactive. He had a cameo in Review, a third-season episode of the TV series News Radio, in which Matthew Brock, played by Andy Dick, becomes an obsessed Dilbert fan. Adams is credited as, quote, the guy in line behind Dave and Joe in First Scene, unquote. Adams was a guest on podcasts including Making Sense with Sam Harris, The Tim Ferriss Show, The James Altucher Show, The Ben Shapiro Show, The Rubin Report, Real Talk with Zuby, and The David Pakman Show. He appeared on Real Time with Bill Maher, Commonwealth Club of California, Fox News, and Berkeley Haas. Adams was interviewed for Mike Cernovich's documentaries Silenced and Hoaxed. Political views. Adams often commented on political and social matters, although he said in 2016, I don't vote and I am not a member of a political party. As of 2008, Adams identified his views on social issues as, quote, leaning libertarian minus the crazy stuff, unquote. After endorsing Mitt Romney for the 2012 presidential election, Adams endorsed Donald Trump in the following election. During that election, he wrote extensively on Trump, praising his persuasion skills, and later described his support for Trump as a factor in ending his public speaking career, as well as negatively impacting his income and friendships. He also spoke against Trump's opponent Hillary Clinton, expressing concerns that Clinton's candidacy would lower the status of men in America. In 2017, Adams described his views as supporting left-wing policies he perceived as realistic. Adams made various predictions about politics. Early in the 2016 election, Adams predicted Trump would win based on his analysis of how persuasive the candidates were. As Trump gained momentum, Adams's election analysis gained media and popular attention. Later, incorrect predictions, repeatedly featured in Politico magazine's annual lists of worst predictions, including that one of Trump, Bernie Sanders, and Joe Biden would die from COVID-19 by the end of 2020, that Republicans would be hunted if Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election, and that the 2024 presidential election would result in a landslide of claims the election was rigged and the results ultimately overturned in Trump's favor by the Supreme Court. After the 2022 Highland Park parade shooting, Adams opined that society leaves parents of troubled teenage boys with only two options: to either watch people die or murder their own son. He said his comments were inspired by his own stepson, who became addicted to drugs at age 14 and later died of a fentanyl overdose. Adams was anti-masking and anti-COVID-19 vaccines, and he believed that people unvaccinated against COVID-19 came out the best compared to vaccinated people. In a 2006 blog post, Adams asked if official figures of the number of deaths in the Holocaust were based on methodologically sound research. In 2023, Adams suggested the 2017 Unite the Right rally was, quote, an American intel op against Trump, unquote. In 2020, Adams said that the Dilbert TV show was canceled because he was white and UPN had decided to focus on an African-American audience and that he had been discriminated against. In a series of comic strips in September 2022, Dilbert parodied environmental, social, and corporate governance strategies. Part of the plotline involved a black character who, quote, identified as white, unquote, and the company management asking him if he could also identify as gay. Personal life. Adams married Shelley Miles aboard a yacht, the Galaxy Commodore, on July 22, 2006, in San Francisco Bay, in a ceremony conducted by the ship's captain. The two had met at a gym in Pleasanton, California, where Shelley was an employee and Adams was a customer. Adams was a stepfather to Shelley's two children, Savannah and Justin, the latter of whom died of a fentanyl overdose in 2018 at age 18. Adams and Shelley divorced in 2014, and Adams said the two remained friends, with Shelley moving a block away after their separation. On Christmas Day in 2019, Adams announced on his podcast that he was engaged to Christina Basham, and later said that they had married on July 11, 2020. Basham, a model and baker, has two daughters and is a vice president at WenHub. On March 10, 2022, and Adams announced on his YouTube podcast that he and Basham were getting divorced. Adams said he was trained as a hypnotist. He credited affirmations for many of his achievements, including scoring in the 94th percentile on a difficult qualification exam for business school and creating Dilbert's success. He said that the affirmations gave him focus. He has described a method he has used that he says gave him success. He pictured in his mind what he wanted and wrote it down 15 times a day on a piece of paper. This technique is used by Dilbert in a 1989 Dilbert strip. Adams lived in Pleasanton, California, and was active in the San Francisco Bay Area. He had no biological children. Shortly before his death, Adams announced his intention to convert to Christianity. He viewed the decision as pragmatic, cost-to-benefit terms, concluding the potential benefit of eternal salvation outweighing any downside if the belief proved to be false. Health and death. In the early 1990s, the little finger of Adams's right hand would spasm when he tried to draw, and he was diagnosed with focal dystonia. He claimed he cured himself by doing a conditioning exercise. In late 2004, his focal dystonia returned, which affected his ability to draw for lengthy periods. Beginning in 2014, he drew on a graphics tablet, and had subsequently switched from using his right hand to his left. He also had spasmodic dysphonia, a condition that causes the vocal cords to behave abnormally. In July 2008, he underwent surgery to reroute the nerve connections to his vocal cords, and his voice reached new levels of functionality. On May 19, 2025, Adams said on his daily podcast, Real Coffee with Scott Adams, that he had prostate cancer that had spread to his bones, and that he only had a short time left to live. He noted that taking ivermectin and fenbendazole to treat the cancer did not work. In June 2025, he had prepared for physician-assisted suicide through the California End-of-Life Option Act, and had planned to go through with it on June 29th or June 30th after his stepdaughter's wedding, as the pain was too much to handle. At this point, he began taking testosterone blocker pills, which caused his pain to abate. This medication was suggested initially, but Adams had declined this treatment. This medication caused his prostate-specific antigen levels to drop by 90%, which he said would prolong his life by between weeks and years. By the end of 2025, the cancer had spread to his spine, which caused him to use a walker due to the immense pain. In November 2025, he said his health was suddenly declining rapidly again and took to social media to ask President Trump to help to get access to the cancer drug Pluvicto. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. replied saying, "How do I reach you? The president wants to help," unquote. The following month, he said he was paralyzed below the waist and had been undergoing radiation therapy. On January 1st, 2026, Adams said on his podcast that he had talked with his radiologist and that it was all bad news. He said there was no chance of regaining feeling back in his legs and disclosed having ongoing heart failure. Adams told viewers they should prepare themselves, quote, that January will probably be a month of transition one way or another, unquote. He died while under hospice care at his Pleasanton home on January 13th at the age of 68. Recognition. Adams received recognition for his work, including the National Cartoonist Society Reuben Award and Newspaper Comic Strip Award for 1997 for his work on Dilbert. He was listed on the Thinkers 50 ranking of the 50 most influential management thinkers, placing 31st in 2001, 27th in 2003, 12th in 2005, and 21st in 2007. He received the Orwell Award in 1998 for his participation in Mission Impertinent for San Jose Mercury News West magazine. Publications. All right, I'm not going to read all of these off. There is going to be a link in the description to the article, so you can actually go and see all of those. Most of them obviously are Dilbert compilations, special compilations, other Dilbert books, Dilbert-related business publications. Actually, we'll read off this list. The Dilbert Newsletter, the Dilbert Principle, 1996, Dogbert's Top Secret Management Handbook, 1996, The Dilbert Future, Thriving on Stupidity in the 21st Century, The Joy of Work, Dilbert in the Way of the Weasel, Slapped Together, The Dilbert Business Anthology, combining the Dilbert Principle, the Dilbert Future, and the Joy of Work. And finally, Dilbert's Guide to the Rest of Your Life, Dispatches from Cubicle Land. Non-Dilbert publications, God's Debris, The Religion War, Stick to Drawing Comics, Monkey Brain, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, Win Bigly, Persuasion in a World Where Facts Don't Matter, Loserthink, How Untrained Brains Are Ruining America, Reframe Your Brain, The User Interface for Happiness and Success, and Win Bigly, Persuasion in a World Where Facts Don't Matter, 2nd edition. All right, that is it. There's obviously a little bit more controversy about him than I was aware of, but I do remember reading Dilbert growing up. I actually remember watching the cartoon show. Overall, I mean, to say that he was not influential in America, and for that matter, a lot of the world as well, would be a gross misunderstatement. So I hope he has found whatever piece he is looking for, and I hope you found this interesting. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and of course, leave a comment and let me know what kind of topics you'd like to hear about next. So, thank you very much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.